Starting an Airbnb business is the quickest and easiest way to make money from Airbnb. You don't really need any money. You don't even need to own any properties. In this video, I'm going to show you the 10 steps to get started and the 5 biggest mistakes I see people make when they're starting an Airbnb management company. What's the crack? My name's Dave and I started my multi-award winning Airbnb management company back in 2016. Since then, we've hosted over 100,000 guests over at least 100 properties. We're doing £4 million in bookings per year and I have a systemized business that runs itself. Now I make videos like this to help people get started or level up their Airbnb game. So first off, let's just get clear on exactly what an Airbnb management company is. It's where you, the host, manage a property on behalf of a property owner client.
Lord Eddard Stark, I would name you the Hand of the King.
I'm not worthy of the honor.
They own the property. You do all the work. You run the business as if it's your own, even though it's not, and at the end of the month, you take a percentage of the revenue and you pay the rest to the client. Now, there are benefits to this structure over buying a property yourself or doing Airbnb arbitrage or rent to SA in the UK. When you're buying a property, you've got to save up all that money to get the deposit to buy the thing. Then you've got to spend all the money to get it set up and ready for Airbnb. It's pretty expensive and it can take a long time. And with rent to SA or Airbnb arbitrage, you've got to pay that guaranteed rent to that owner no matter what. So when times are good, you got to pay. When times are bad, you've got to pay. And also when you finally secured that first property on Airbnb arbitrage, it's going to need some work done. So you're still going to have to spend quite a lot of money up front to get the property ready for Airbnb standard. But when you're managing a property on behalf of an owner, they are the ones who have to buy it, obviously. They are the ones who are going to spend the money to kit it out, to get it up to standard. You have a very lean model, a very small barrier to get entry into this industry. And as we're going to learn, it is a very lean business model where you have very few costs because most of them are passed back to the property owner client. So how the hell do you get started? Well, step 1 is research and plan. In other words, you're going to have to learn how to do Airbnb. It's a harsh reality, but why would anyone trust you with their property if you didn't have the faintest idea what you were doing? Property owner clients are going to have questions for you if they're going to trust you with their property, so you need to have the answers. Read this book, watch this channel, but the most important video is to watch this one. It's a 30-minute free training on how to run an Airbnb business. I'll link to it at the end, so just stay here for now. Now, if you already have experience in Airbnb, then happy days. Things are going to be a lot easier for you, but you still need to stick around to watch the rest of these steps. Now, you don't just need to learn how to actually run an Airbnb business, you need to determine the demand for Airbnbs in your area. I've got a video here on how you can do this for free, or you can use a paid service like AirDNA, which is going to go much deeper, much more thorough, but it is paid for. But this is an investment, not just the time, but the money you're going to spend. And this is really going to help you when you're talking to clients about potentially managing their properties. Now, one of the biggest mistakes you can make in this business is targeting the wrong kind of properties. Now, we're going to talk about more about that at the end, but it is so important that you don't take the wrong property. In your market research, you need to be identifying your competitors, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses, and also determine who your target guests are, who are coming to stay in these Airbnbs. Is it tourists? Is it corporate? Is it contractors? Depending on who is coming to stay, that's going to impact the way you run the business. And the last thing you need to do in step 1 is come up with a business plan. It's comprehensive. Think about what you're going to do, how you're going to charge, how much you're going to charge, who you're going to work with. All of these things are going to help you navigate a way forward to know exactly what you should be getting, what to expect, what to target, and what to avoid. And then decide whether you're going for an LLC in America or a limited company in the UK, or you're just going to do this as sole trader. It's probably better to have a different legal entity, but speak to an accountant on this. And that's it for step 1. The ball has begun to roll. You are making moves. Step 2 is the financial setup of everything. Now, it's really important that you have 2 separate bank accounts for this Airbnb management business. One is your current account, and the second is your client account, where the client money is going to go into. You have to keep these separate. Next, you can set up an accounting software to manage your finance, something like Xero or QuickBooks. It's going to help you keep track of all the transactions that are coming in and out of those accounts, because things are going to get very messy and very confusing very quickly. And lastly, it's really important again that you speak to an accountant and understand your tax implications. Traditionally, if you're managing the property for someone else, the total revenue and income from that property is not yours or your company's, it is the property owner's. And that can be quite good, because if you have a property that's generating tons of money, well, you don't have to pay the tax on all that money. You pay the tax on your return. But again, speak to an accountant. This is not financial advice. Step 3 is develop your offer. Figure out exactly what in the hell you're going to actually offer these clients. There's so many hats, so many roles to have in this Airbnb business, and you need to decide whether you're offering for all of them or just some of them. You could do listing creation, guest communication, cleaning, maintenance, all of the above, in my opinion, you should be doing everything. You should be offering a completely hassle-free service to your client so they know they just give you the keys and they're only going to hear from you when you're paying the money every month. And in my experience, when you're offering a sort of blended model, things can get messy. If a client has let in a guest that you know has been trouble, that you have to deal with the cleaning aspect and the awkward conversations through the communication, that can create friction. So in my experience, it's easier to just say it's all or nothing. But maybe it'll be different for you. I don't know. You also need to decide on how much you're going to charge these clients. Is it going to be a percentage of booking fees? Is it going to be a flat fee? It's completely up to you. Generally, a commission of a percentage of top line revenue is the standard. And in terms of amounts, it could be anything from 15% to 25%. Now, again, this is another big mistake that I see people make when they're getting started, and we're going to talk about that at the end, so stick around. Next up in step 3 is to create the systems that you're going to actually need to run the Airbnb once you've actually got it, because don't forget, this is coming for you and this is hard work. It's going to be hard if you're literally starting from scratch with no experience in Airbnb, but just think you're going to need to develop systems around cleaning, maintenance, check-in times, check-out times, what policies you're going to set for guests, how you're going to take deposits, how you're going to vet guests. There's a lot of stuff to think about. You can watch this video on how to systemize everything, but try not to be too hard on yourself. Just keep these things front and center. Once you get a property, things are going to go crazy. Your systems that you think are working aren't going to work. You're going to need other systems that you've completely not even thought about. But just have something down on paper. Try and work this stuff through in your head. And then lastly, decide how and when you're going to pay out to your clients. So I mentioned having the client account at the start. I think that's really important so that the income comes into your account so that you're never having to chase the clients to get paid for your services. Best practice is income comes into the client account. Any deductions are made in terms of like cleaning, maintenance, your fee, and then you pay out to the client once a month or once a week, whatever you decide. Step 4, and you're ready to go. You just need some properties, come on. So you're gonna need to start building your network. Outreach to property owners, to investors, to just people. Just start talking about what you're gonna do. Spread the word. Go to networking events, join local property groups, and start pitching your service to property owners. And look, the benefit to them is increased revenue, because if they have tenants, you're definitely gonna be able to pay out far more to them than their tenants will by running it as an Airbnb. You're going to be telling them that, look, you're going to be maintaining this property because you need it to be shit hot. Any maintenance issues are going to be dealt with straight away. It's going to be professionally cleaned 2 or 3 times a week. There's so many benefits to the property owner by just giving it to you to run as an Airbnb on their behalf. But you're going to have to be open and honest about your lack of experience. You're going to need to build genuine relationships built on trust. Don't be going in bullshitting people that you've got loads of experience already when you don't, because the wheels are going to come off and you're going to get caught out very quickly and your whole reputation is going to be in the toilet. But if you keep talking to people, keep mentioning what you want to do, you're going to find someone who's going to be willing to take a punt on you. At this stage, you're going to need to start building relationships with cleaners, with maintenance providers, people who are going to paint, people who are going to fix your plumbing when it breaks down. All these things you need to have ready for when you have a property. Step 5 is a continuation of building your network. It's getting online and building an online presence. Now this is important, but I do not want this to hold you back thinking about you have to get the best logo and the best website before you can get started. Have this running in the background while you're still having these conversations and they're pitching to these landlords. This is nice, but it's not crucial to have at the start. It's probably more important to have social media profiles where you can actually reach out to people directly online as well if you're not able to find them at a networking event or get their number or their email address. Just start talking about what you're doing, talking about the return that you're going to offer, talk about the research that you've done and how you know there's demand in an area and you're ready to go, and then the day will happen. Someone will say, let's do it. It could be a few days or a few weeks or a few months of networking, cultivating relationships with property owners, but sooner or later, it's going to happen where someone gives you their property. Now, the first time someone offers you the property, it's going to feel like, hallelujah, everything you've worked towards is now happening. But it's important to be careful. Not all clients and not all properties are created equal, and that's one of the big mistakes that people make. Again, I'm going to touch on this at the end, but just be so careful. But once you're happy with the property and the client, let's go. It's time to get them onboarded. Try and make it as seamless and as smooth as possible for bringing on a new client. Now, this is going to be difficult the first time you've done it, but once you've got 1 or 2 through the door, you're going to know the things to do to just make it more seamless. And it's going to change depending on your circumstances. All going to have questions. Believe it or not, many of the questions are going to be the same, and it's up to you to have the right answers to put people at ease and to just get that property ready for guests. And that's when all your research that you've done in step 1 is really going to pay off, because people are going to be asking,
what about occupancy rate? How much can I make? Who's going to be staying in the place? What are you going to do if there's a party? How are you going to stop it?
All these questions that you've done the research on in step 1 are going to bear fruit now. Now, before you start operating, it's important that you get a contract drawn up or written out that agrees everything that you've discussed. When you're going to pay, how much you're going to charge, all the ins and outs, who's responsible for what. Get that signed by everyone so that everyone moves forward from day 1 on the same page. And with regards to your fees, you're probably in your first property going to have to offer some sort of reduced fee, because honestly, it's a big risk for a property owner. If you've told them and been honest but genuine that you don't have really any experience, it's a bit of a punt for them. It's a gamble, so you might have to offer them a reduced rate, at least for like 3 months or 6 months. Step 7 is make yourself and your client a shitload of money. Now, this is when the good stuff happens, but also when the hard work starts. This is now you running an Airbnb business. And to be honest, you probably haven't thought too much about this, even though I've told you to in the other steps, because you've just been so focused on getting that first property. Well, let me tell you, things are about to get crazy.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
You need to set up and optimize your property listings across all the different booking sites. You got to get professional photos taken, compelling descriptions that are actually going to get bookings. You've got to deal with all your guests before they arrive, during their stay, and after they've left. You've got to arrange cleaning, maintenance. You've got to vet those guests. There's a lot of stuff you've got to do. But guess what? You're going to be making money all the way through. You're going to learn very quickly, and you're going to have to. Get this book, get my Airbnb starter kit, watch my videos, and just make sure you absolutely smash it. Step 8, once you've got a property and you're smashing it, the next step is don't f it up. This is not a time to take your foot off the gas. You've got to be so careful to make sure that you keep getting those 5-star reviews. Regularly inspect the properties to make sure they're still in good condition. Keep communicating with those guests to get those 5-star reviews. Keep tweaking the systems that you thought you were going to have perfect at the start, but once you get started, you realize they're not fit for purpose. Keep improving, keep doing everything you can to ensure that your client and you are making a shitload of money. Your clients are going to be your biggest cheerleaders. So many of ours, once they give us one property and we just pay them so much money, they just bring us more properties, more properties, more properties. They tell everyone, like, it's such a big ball of positivity. Which leads me on to step 9. Scale. Once you've got one property on your books, every time you speak to another potential client, you're going to be able to use the numbers from that first property to demonstrate what you can do. The questions they have for you, the answers are just going to roll off the tongue because you're getting experience, real world experience. It's going to be easier and easier to bring more properties in, but just be careful to do it gradually. You don't want to burst everything at the seams. Now is the time where you can look to start to automate and delegate using tech like property management systems, where you can hire staff or outsource on websites like Upwork or Fiverr to just help you manage the growth effectively, so you're not completely swamped and overwhelmed. Now, before we come on to the 5 big mistakes to avoid, the last step is just basically keep not f***ing it up. It's important to consider, and honestly you need to be careful of this, that new problems come with scale. The problems you're going to have with 1 or 2 properties are completely different than the problems you're going to have between 3 to 10, and even more different from the ones you're going to have when you go over 10 properties. Systems break, things go wrong, people let you down, and you're going to need more leverage and more tech, more automation to ensure that you're not just completely burnt out and overwhelmed. So in practical terms, monitor your performance, make sure all the properties are delivering in terms of incomes, and that you're getting the bookings in that you need, and that those bookings and those guests are happy and leaving 5-star reviews. Maintain strong relationships with your clients, make sure they're happy, make sure you're delivering for them, and address any of their concerns promptly. And it's very simple. The more money you pay them, the happier they're going to be. And the happier they are, the more referrals you're going to get. Okay, now we're on to the 5 biggest mistakes that you need to avoid when you're starting an Airbnb management business. Number 1 is don't get desperate. Don't take any old shit property that someone's stupid enough to offer you. When you were doing your research in step 1, you will have seen which properties work and which don't, which areas work and which don't. Stay true to that. That is real data that you've researched and that you know to be true. If someone offers you a property that you think is not right or not in the right location, don't get desperate. Don't just take it because it's the first property that someone's offered you. It will come back to bite you and that client in the ass. In 6 months' time, you'll be having a very difficult conversation when that client said,
"Where's my money? Why haven't you made me any money?"
And you're going to have to say,
yeah, I sort of thought this wasn't the right property, but I just thought I would take it because you were the first person to offer me one.
That's not a situation you want to be in. Mistake number 2 is that you now have 2 customers. Your guests who are coming to stay in the property and give you all the reviews and pay all the money, and the clients who actually own the properties that you're using to get those guests. You've got to look after both of them. You can't focus too much on one or the other, because if you disappoint either, it's game over. Number 3 is be careful who you work with in terms of clients. To put it bluntly, some clients can just be total dicks. The best type of client is someone who gives you the keys, backs off, and you just pay them once a month. Often they don't even reply to say thank you, but that's what you want. You just want to be left alone to run the property, pay them what they want, and then we'll just run the property ourselves. What you don't want is someone micromanaging you as if you work for them, which technically you do, but you don't want to have to answer to them. And there are going to be lots of clients out there, even though you're running the business and you know what you're doing, you're learning quickly on the job, they don't have a clue what they're talking about, but they're going to be chirping in with ideas and things.
Why don't you try this and you should do this instead?
Difficult conversations. If you see any of those red flags, just don't work with that client. Next mistake I see people making is getting caught up in the top line booking revenue. That is not your money. That is your client's money. Your margin is 20%, 25%, 15% of that. So we're doing £4 million in bookings, but that's not £4 million of our money. So you got to think really carefully and protect that margin. Yes, you're going to need to start systemizing and employing people or tech, but you have to protect that and invest that money very wisely. And mistake number 5 I see people making is competing on price. You want to make sure that you're the best at what you do, you can deliver the best service to those guests and pay out the highest rates to those clients, and that comes at a cost. Do not be going in on trying to undercut everyone, especially once you've been established. Be the best and charge the highest rates. Those are the easiest conversations to have when a client says, "How much do you charge?" And you say,
25%.
They say,
God, that's a bit expensive.
and you say,
Yeah, it is. Wait to hear what you get for that.
The clients who want to batter you down on price are the worst clients, so just say goodbye, no thank you. Now, the next thing you need to do is watch this video on how to run an Airbnb business. It's a 30-minute free training. It's going to tell you everything you need to know, because remember, this is a hospitality business, and if you don't treat it with respect, you're not going to get anywhere. You'll end up with crap reviews, no bookings, unhappy clients, and eventually no properties. But before you click that video, click the subscribe button. Click, 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 click.